Billy Benter, the man who turned a love for numbers into a billion-dollar gambling empire. From counting cards in the glittering casinos of Las Vegas to revolutionizing horse race betting in Hong Kong, his journey was not about luck. It was about outsmarting the odds, breaking down barriers, and creating a system so powerful that it changed the game forever. But let's see how an ordinary college student became one of the most successful gamblers in history. How it all began. William Benter was born in 1957 in a suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He grew up in the same environment and developed a talent for mathematics and the complexities of numbers. He was like every other student. After graduation, he went off to college to study physics. While in college, he began to take an interest in gambling, gaining an inspiration from the book called Beat the Dealer by Edward Thorpe, which taught readers how to overcome the casino's home advantages in the game of blackjack, a technique known today as card counting. The technique includes keeping track of cards dealt and then betting high stakes when one thinks a high-value card is about to drop. Even though it takes a lot of hands and concentration to pull off card counting, it did in fact work. Benter had liberal parents who gave him the freedom to go wherever he wanted, so at age 22, he took a break from school and hopped on a bus to Las Vegas. He needed money to get started, so he took a job at 7-Eleven, which paid roughly $3 an hour. He also worked part-time at McDonald's while playing at small casinos with very little profits. And it was during that time that he would meet a man who turned his fortunes around. Every gambler has that one story, the time they beat the odds and hit it big. Now it's your turn to create your story and become a main character in our future videos. Welcome to Crypto Rush, where luck meets opportunity in the world of crypto gambling. Deposit crypto, play your favorite games, and cash out in seconds. Crypto Rush brings the joy and excitement of a casino to your fingertips. Click the first link in the description and start your winning streak today. Crypto Rush, where legends are made. The Partnership. Benter, in one of his trips to the casinos, was introduced to a man by the name of Alan Woods, an Australian gambler, along with his team of card counters. They were new to Las Vegas, and Alan appeared to be a man who led a pretty adventurous life. Benter was impressed by the team's level of discipline and organization, and it became clear that having a team of players was the ultimate strategy for card counting, as it greatly reduced the risk and made it easy to score big, increasing the team's bankroll. Alan had invited Benter to join his team, and he immediately obliged. The team played everywhere, and Benter found himself making around $80,000 a year. Benter had no longer seen the need to go back to college and finish his degree, and so he decided to chase the money in Vegas and dropped out of school. He had hoped that this new partnership would make him a lot of money and things would continue to play to his advantage, but after 7 years, he and his team found themselves banned from almost every casino on the Vegas Strip as they were suspected of card counting and using other methods of cheating. Hong Kong horse racing. Woods and Benter needed to come up with a new strategy to keep making money from gambling as they had been banned from Las Vegas. So, Woods came up with the brilliant idea of scouting out the Hong Kong Horse Racing Club. The racing season was usually from September to July, and horse racing betting was the most popular form in the region, raking in over $10 billion annually in the 1980s. The dynamics in Hong Kong were completely different from that of Las Vegas, as even the government had profited off the enterprise. To make money through this venture, they would need to use a profit margin significantly greater than the assumed profit because all of the deductions that would follow. This was a huge gamble, considering the fact that the chances of success were not very high. Benter needed an advantage that would allow him to beat the system, and so he went to work seeking out all of the books and publications that he could find on horse racing. He even visited libraries and universities to find research materials, and according to every information he had acquired, the chances of winning a horse race depended on a vast number of factors. These included speed on a straight line, the skill of the rider, the track condition, the weather, the size of the horse, past winning records, and they were only a few factors that would statistically affect the possibility of a horse winning a race. But there were also outliers and off days, which made the whole thing even more confusing and random. Benter began learning advanced statistics and software development, and he hired 2 employees to scan the results of a year's worth of horse racing into a database for easy manipulation along with codes. When he had finished learning and computing all the records, he traveled back to Hong Kong to settle in with his partner, who had spent his time gathering gathering materials while studying the statistics of wins and losses many years back. They then used the software to input information and make their predictions, all while watching the horse race on television. At first, they were not betting any money, so they never celebrated a win, but over time, Benter needed to continue adjusting algorithms as there were unlimited variations of when playing with limited money. You had to have significant odds in your favor and wager enough to hedge all of your possibilities. This would ensure that the chances became a bit more favorable. Failure and separation. Benter and his partner were unrelenting in their goals to secure the bag, but sadly things did not go the way they had planned. After a year in Hong Kong, the duo found that they had lost almost $120,000 on risky stakes out of their starting capital of $150,000. This, of course, was not sustainable, so they both had to travel back to acquire more funding for the venture. A few months later, they met back up in Hong Kong, but only this time, Woods had enough money to gamble with, but Benter was unable to get any cash. Woods told Benter that he was willing to use his money as capital for the venture. However, they would have to renegotiate the terms of their business. Woods wanted a 90% stake of the earnings, which would leave Benter with a weak 10%, assuming that they were even lucky enough to win in the first place. Benter had refused the terms, and naturally the partnership came to an end. He wrote and installed a code that would make his software stop functioning after a set date, even though Woods could easily find a programmer to reverse it. He then left Hong Kong and flew back to Atlantic City to gamble on blackjack, knowing that his friends would be unwilling to stake him at horse racing for fear of losing all their money. However, they would be willing to stake him on blackjack because they knew how talented that he was at the game. He secured funding from his friends, recruited a small team of card counters, and then returned to the casinos where he was still allowed. While he made money on blackjack, he kept on working horse racing until it was finally ready for a test trial. The return to Hong Kong. Benter had amassed a few $1,000s from gambling in Atlantic City and returned to Hong Kong. Woods, on the other hand, hired a programmer to develop the software and was already making money. Benter wasn't interested in having dealings with Woods, so he never bothered looking him up. Instead, he continued to work on his own software, adding in factors to its already broad algorithm, and in his first year, he made a bet that won $600,000, but knew that it could be better. And that's when he hired a man named Bob Moore, an obsessed horse racing gambler who had got his inspiration from drugs and analyzing racetrack videos to identify anomalies and horses that had the potential to do better under different conditions. Bob's contributions would improve the algorithm, but what changed things for Benter was when he began to hire multiple people to work with him on his passion project. He hired consultants, journalists, programmers, gamblers, and administrative workers for his call line. His operation was as big as any corporate organization. One day, one of his staff drew attention to something he had never thought about since the beginning of the operation, a suggestion to incorporate the betting odds of horse racing Jockey Club, which was publicly available. This would be the missing piece of the puzzle. Benter no longer needed to create his own odds from scratch, but he could use the available predictions from the Jockey Club while tweaking and adding in his own predictions from the data set that was available. This became the biggest achievement so far because in a single year from 1990 to 91, he scored a whopping $3 million. The Jockey Club had recognized him as a valuable client after his big win and would often contact him to know how they could be of service. Benter would negotiate to place his bets via computer rather than the traditional over-the-phone method, and the Jockey Club accepted. This would allow Benter to create a direct cable connection to their machine. It became the beginning of his success as his team continued to score big wins and even won a triple trio jackpot, which was one of the biggest jackpots in horse racing. They had hit over $50 million, but then a problem struck. Being a foreigner in a country where the jackpots were a combination of money from the pockets of thousands of residents, it may not be the smartest idea to appear in person or on television to claim his wins. There's a chance that people would lose hope in the system and stop betting as it would seem rigged, and the Jockey Club, upon realizing his identity, suspended his connected internet line. It was done to protect their integrity and interest of the locals. The last resort. Benter had decided to do things in the traditional way. He was still allowed to bet by using regular tickets, so his next move would be to print the blank tickets from his hotel room, fill them, and then rush to drop them off at the nearest betting shop. He continued to repeat this routine with numerous employees for every race, and after that would wait to see how many of his punts would hit their mark. Things were going great for a while, and Benter was making outrageous sums of money until the Inland Revenue began looking into the case of his finances. Benter's profits weren't taxed because gambling was exempted from taxes. However, companies also had to pay tax, and Benter appeared to be running a company to the government. Benter understood the dangers of remaining in Hong Kong with the watchful eyes of the Revenue Service hovering over him, and so he fled the country with the wealth that he had built up. Reports say that it was somewhere in the realm of $1 billion, which would make him one of the most successful gamblers in history. Life after the racetrack. After Benter had left the gambling scene, he dedicated much of his time to philanthropy. In 2007, he built the Benter Foundation, an institution which focused on offering education in Pittsburgh and beyond. He then went on to serve as a visiting professor at the Southampton University of Management, where he then shared his experience in risk statistical analysis. What did you think about the life and mathematical genius of Billy Benter? Be sure to let me know all about it in the comments down below. You should also subscribe to the channel so that you never miss another great video like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.